thank all of you for being part of this most important discussion. Mr. Participe, I want to ask you, Georgia is the #1 forestry state in the nation. We have more forestry than any other state in the nation. It's extremely important to us, and biomass is something that we have really concentrated on. In fact, we have biomass plants in my district that provide biomass for a number of different industries, as well as we send biomass for heating purposes to Europe, and they use a lot of it as well. So I wanted to ask you, during the Obama administration, the EPA's Office of Air and Radiation had sent out a memorandum in November of 2014 on the carbon benefits of forest-derived biomass. And the memorandum said, and I quote, use of waste-derived feedstocks and certain forest-derived feedstocks are likely to have minimal or no net atmospheric contributions of biogenic CO2 emissions, or even reduce such impacts when compared with an alternative fate of disposal. I know that you've written op-eds as well. In fact, I think you wrote an op-ed in The Hill almost a year ago, citing the benefits of biomass. And I wanted to ask you, since you've noted and EPA has noted that the decarbonization benefits of forest-derived biomass, do you agree that it makes sense for the EPA to recognize the benefits of bioenergy produced from forest products that are manufacturers?
Oh, I'm still unmuted. Great. Yes. The Renewable Thermal Collaborative lists biomass as one of the key components of the options available to decarbonize parts of the thermal needs of American manufacturing and industry. The counterbalance to that, and what is always the hang-up in everybody's analysis, in my op-ed, not representing the Renewable Thermal Collaborative, but representing myself, pointed out that most of the forest land in the United States is privately owned, and to maintain those forests, there needs to be an economic incentive for those forests to be maintained. And so finding that balance of all the proper sustainable forestry practices to assure that the balance is correct in terms of the carbon neutrality of the use of those forest products is what the discussion is about. And I'm confident that we as a country can work through that. And I think some of the innovation that will be stimulated by some of the provisions in this bill can, I hope, help move those industries closer together.
Well, I appreciate you saying that very much. I serve on the Select Committee for Climate Change, and I have sometimes I run up against a brick wall when I talk about biomass as being carbon neutral, and people just don't want to accept it, but it is carbon neutral. And if you think about it, with sustainable forest and everything that we're doing with our forest here in America, that is certainly an egg in the egg basket, if you will, that we need to be using to fight carbon emissions. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, we need to preserve the American forest and allow even additional forests to grow. And this is another whole conversation. And again, I think there's some incentives in this bill that will stimulate innovation in this area. But whether it's 100% carbon neutral or 93% carbon neutral or 95%, that can be determined. And I'm going to guess here, without any scientific analysis, that there'll be some discounting there because of transportation issues and other things, and management practices. But certainly there's significant benefits, and certainly the Renewable Thermal Collaborative that I'm representing today sees biomass as an important component of decarbonizing industrial heat.
Great. Well, thank you for that very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Sunday, very quickly, because I'm running out of time here. Under Title IX of this bill, all permits would essentially be stopped for plastic. And not only that, but this means that recycling of plastics would also be stopped. How is that going to impact killing the recycling cutting edge technology that we're working on? How is that going to provide us a realistic path forward?
It would do nothing but shoot ourselves in the foot. And again, calls us to rely on manufacturing in other countries.
Right. Well, I'm out of time, but thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.